Discover the 7 miraculous signs revealed before God fulfills his incredible blessings in your life. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, in the barren wilderness of Midian, a humble shepherd named Moses tended his flock. Burdened by the weight of his heritage, the son of Hebrew slaves raised in Pharaoh's house, his heart echoed with the cries of his people shackled in Egypt. The sun blazed fiercely over the rugged hills of Sinai, casting long shadows that stretched into the desolation, mirroring the longing in his soul for liberation. As Moses wandered deeper into the mountains, the aroma of dry earth filled the air, a stark reminder of his solitary plight. Suddenly, his weary eyes were drawn to an extraordinary sight: a bush engulfed in flames, yet it was not consumed. An inexplicable force beckoned him closer, stirring curiosity and fear within. The moment was electric, crackling with divine mystery. "Moses! Moses!" A voice thundered from within the flames, the sound resonating through the stillness of that sacred place. Trembling, he called out, "Here I am." The ground beneath him pulsed with holiness, and as he stood before the burning bush, the gravity of a divine calling unfurled, a mission enveloping him like the fire consuming the bush. "Go, deliver my people from Egypt," the voice commanded. Fear washed over Moses, doubt seeping into his heart like a creeping shadow. How could he confront the mighty Pharaoh? Yet the promise resounded through the air, "I will be with you." But how can he trust words that have been mere whispers through the years of anguish? As the weight of divine commission settled onto his shoulders, a miraculous demonstration erupted from the heavens. The Nile River flowed like a lifeblood through Egypt, but at God's command, Moses struck the water with his rod, and the river turned to blood. The Egyptians watched in horror as their source of life became a grim spectacle of death, a sign of God's authority striking the heart of their nation. Days turned into weeks as Moses stood before Pharaoh again and again, demanding the release of the Israelites. Each refusal birthed another sign of God's power. Frogs leaped in unforgiving numbers, gnats filled the air in clouds, and flies invaded their homes. With each encounter, Pharaoh's heart hardened, revealing the intense battle not just among men, but within a nation blind to the hand of their Creator. As Moses wrestled with despair and hope, he whispered to the desert night, "Will my people ever be free?" The stars twinkled above, silent witnesses to his cries, as he held fast to the promises sown into the fabric of eternity. Amid the plagues that scarred the land, a flicker of hope ignited in the hearts of the Israelites. They huddled together, speaking of a land flowing with milk and honey, a promise that seemed so distant yet tantalizingly close. In moments of fear, God challenged them to trust, to obey, and he drew them nearer to his heart. Suddenly, the final plague loomed, a shadow of death sweeping across Egypt. A test awaited, demanding unwavering faith. Would the Israelites heed the command to mark their doorposts with the blood of a lamb, trusting in the salvation of God? Tension surged as Moses faced the precipice of despair and expectation, a nation trembling at the edge of divine deliverance. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. The air thickened with unspoken promises, as Moses stood amidst the brewing storm of divine intervention, and the longing for freedom ignited a fervor in the hearts of the Israelites. Would they rise to meet God's call? Would faith be their strength through the shadow of death? As Moses gazed into the darkness, he felt a shift, a fissure in the sacred silence that bordered not just his own fears, but the desperate cries of a people waiting for deliverance. What would unfold next danced just beyond the horizon, compelling both Moses and his people toward an uncharted destiny. That night, the air thickened with anticipation as the moon cast a pallid glow over the land of Egypt. In the homes of the Israelites, fear intertwined with hope as Moses, their chosen leader, relayed the solemn command from the Lord. This was not merely a suggestion, it was a covenantal decree from the Almighty. "Take a lamb for each household," he instructed, his voice firm yet steady, bearing the weight of the divine mission. "Slaughter it at twilight, and take some of the blood and put it on the sides and tops of the doorframes of the houses where you eat the lambs." Exodus 12 verses 3-7. The Israelites listened intently, hearts racing at the gravity of the task before them. They were to mark their doorposts with the blood, a sign of obedience, a pledge of faith. The Lord had promised, "When I see the blood, I will pass over you, no destructive plague will touch you when I strike Egypt." Exodus 12 verse 13. As they prepared their meals, the sound of sheep bleating was punctuated by the low murmur of the people's concern. Would this strange ritual truly spare them? They questioned among themselves, eyes wide with apprehension. The night was heavy with the scent of roasted lamb, mingling with the bitterness of uncertainty. Meanwhile, in the palace of Pharaoh, darkness loomed over his heart, hardened against the commands of the God of Israel. "Who is the Lord?" he sneered, his pride masking the terror circulating through his land. The cries of the Egyptians grew louder as they witnessed the calamities coming upon them, yet Pharaoh, emboldened by arrogance, would not relent. As the clock of destiny ticked ominously toward midnight, the skies darkened, and the first litter of stars flickered above, a prelude to the unfolding horrors. In the stillness of the night, Moses breathed a prayer, "O Lord, grant courage to your people." At that very hour, the angel of death swept through the land. As he passed by, a chilling silence fell, a silence unlike any other. Families huddled together in trembling groups, praying fervently for deliverance. The air was thick, saturated with desperation and faith alike. By dawn, wails erupted throughout Egypt, the sound of sorrow that broke the night. The firstborn of every household was claimed, their lifeblood extinguished in a merciless display of God's righteous judgment. Pharaoh's defiance dissolved in grief as he understood the weight of God's command. In stark contrast, the homes marked by the blood remained untouched, those within safe beneath the shadow of the Almighty's protection. The Israelites breathed in the dawn with hesitant hope as they opened their doors. A new beginning awaited them. With a heavy heart, Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron. "Up! Leave my people, you and the Israelites. Go, worship the Lord as you have requested." Exodus 12 verse 31. The Israelites, now bearing the spoils of their liminality, moved bravely forward, the promise of freedom crystallizing into reality. They loaded their bread dough unleavened, made in haste as they prepared to flee toward the revelation of God's covenant. Through the chaos of the Exodus, Moses glanced back at Egypt, the land of oppression, a distant memory bathed in blood now overshadowed by the dawn of liberation. "We are a people chosen," he murmured, gripping his staff, a tangible symbol of God's power and promise. As the multitude journeyed forth, a question loomed: what awaited them in the wilderness? The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but one thing was clear: God's sovereign plan was unfolding, and with every step, the rallying cry for deliverance grew louder among the Israelites. Ultimately, they would not just be delivered from oppression, they were being prepared for something far greater. The journey, a testament to faith, obedience, and the divine design, was only just beginning. What remarkable revelations awaited them in the heart of the desert, where God would weave their story into the fabric of the ages. The divine orchestration of their destiny was at hand. As the sun broke forth, illuminating the path before them, the air buzzed with a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. The Israelites emerged from their homes, eyes reflecting the dawn of liberation. Each step carried the weight of generations, a burden of suffering now transformed into hope. Moses led the throng, his spirit buoyed by the Lord's unmistakable presence. "Remember this day," he urged, his voice filled with authority, "for it is this day that the Lord has brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage." Exodus 13 verse 3. The people murmured in agreement, hearts rekindled by the promise of the covenant unfolding before them. As they journeyed forth, the sound of their footsteps echoed the ancient hymns sung by their forefathers, songs of praise to the God who delivered. Mothers cradled their children, recounting the tale of the lamb and the blood that marked their doorways. The memories of bitter toil had not yet faded, but now, they began to glisten with the hope for a future. Yet, as they crossed the boundary of Egypt, a shroud of uncertainty lingered in their hearts. Some gazed back longingly at the land from which they had fled, caught in the tension between liberation and the familiarity of their past. Will we truly find rest in the wilderness? They whispered among themselves, doubt creeping like shadows across their enthusiasm. As the sun climbed higher, God spoke to Moses from the cloud of his glory. Lifted from darkness, my people shall not walk in fear. For I shall lead you by the way of the wilderness to the promised land. Exodus 13 verses 17 to 18. Moses stood firm, emboldened by this assurance. He communicated the divine words, and a renewed spirit filled the multitude. They marched on, each step accompanied by the rhythm of God's promise, yet the road ahead remained shrouded in mystery. At twilight, as the day surrendered to night, the Israelites camped beside a great sea. Unbeknownst to them, the very waters that lay before would soon be the stage for a glorious display of God's power. As they gathered around the flickering fire, anxious murmurs once again rippled through the camp. As night draped its dark mantle, news arrived that Pharaoh's heart had turned once more, steeled by vengeance. The chariots of Egypt were swiftly approaching, their wheels echoing like thunder on the earth. Panic gripped the people. "Did you bring us here to die?" they cried, casting accusing glances at Moses. "Were there no graves in Egypt?" Exodus 14 verses 11 to 12. In this moment of despair, Moses rose among them, his voice steady, a beacon of faith amid chaos. "Fear not. Stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today." Exodus 14 verse 13. With that proclamation, hope began to simmer anew. The Israelites gathered around their leader, hearts united in collective anticipation of God's intervention. Meanwhile, in their hearts, a conflict arose: would they trust in his promise? Suddenly, a wind stirred, and the sea before them quivered in response. The mighty breath of God swept across the waters, parting them into walls of glass, revealing dry land beneath. Unseen but very much present, the Almighty worked wonders beyond their comprehension. With each step toward the miraculous passage, their faith hung in a delicate balance. What lay beyond the parted waters? The clamor of pursuing chariots loomed ever closer, but they were not just escaping, they were moving toward divine destiny. In that suspended moment, the magnitude of God's sovereign plan revealed itself. Deliverance was not merely an end, but rather the genesis of something profound. Would they follow the path he carved before them into new life? The night whispered of mysteries yet unveiled while the spectacle of triumph awaited. The story of their redemption had only begun to be woven. Little did they know, the journey would forge a nation, a people united under the banner of the God who delivers. Every step was not just a departure, but an entry into glory, shaping a legacy they would remember for generations. The clay of their hearts would be molded in the desert air, to prepare them for the profound covenant awaiting them. What further marvels would God unfold? The promise of his presence, unwavering and enduring, beckoned them forward. As the night deepened, the Israelites stood at the edge of the great sea, their hearts gripped by a tumult of fear and astonishment. The wind that had parted the waters began to stir anew, a divine orchestration that echoed through the air like a celestial symphony. Onlookers beheld the towering walls of water, shimmering under the moon's pale light. Moses felt the pulse of divine authority surge within him. The Lord spoke once more, commanding, "Tell the sons of Israel to go forward." Exodus 14 verse 15. With these words ringing in his ears, he took his staff and raised it high, emboldened by the presence of his God. "Behold the wonders of the Lord," he declared, his voice reverberating through the multitude. "For the Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent." Exodus 14 verse 14. The air was thick with anticipation as the Israelites shifted uneasily, torn between their instinct to flee and a burgeoning trust in the one who had chosen them. With a collective breath held, they stepped onto the dry ground made firm by heavenly hands. The first footfall marked a moment of history, while the second echoed the dawn of faith. The waters loomed menacingly close, yet a sacred space was forged between the people and the chaos behind them, a testament to God's unwavering protection. As they advanced, the sound of the Egyptian chariots thundered like a dark cloud enveloping the night. Pharaoh's relentless pursuit drove the army like a storm, and the Israelites could hear the shouts of the warriors seeking to reclaim what was lost. Yet, their eyes were fixed on the path before them, illuminated by a profound light that emanated from the promise of their God. Suddenly, the Lord looked down upon the Egyptian army through the pillar of fire and cloud, and confusion fell upon them like a shroud. Their chariots struggled to move forward, the wheels became bogged down in the muck created by the shifting sea. "Let us flee from the Israelites," urged one officer, "for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians." Exodus 14 verse 25, and in that moment of turmoil, doubt intermingled with faith among the Israelites. Some faltered in their steps, glancing back at the encroaching danger, while others pressed on, emboldened by the whispers of their God that promised deliverance. A surge of belief coursed through them as they recalled the wonders they had witnessed, the signs that brought them to this very place. Moses continued to lead them onward, until they reached the heart of the divided sea. They fought against their rising fear, clinging to the assurance of hope that illuminated their way. "Look not behind you," he shouted, urging them onward. "The Lord has done great things for us, be not afraid, for we are in his mighty hands." At last, the last of the people stepped onto the other side, a rush of relief buoyed their hearts. With a swift command, Moses turned once more toward the waters. "O Lord, let your power be made manifest now." He raised his staff again, and the very waters began to return to their place. The banks of the sea crashed into each other with a fearsome roar, engulfing the pursuing Egyptians, who had thought they could overtake the chosen ones of God. Triumph erupted among the Israelites as they witnessed their enemies swallowed whole by the deep, an act of divine justice and a fierce entrenchment of faith. In the distance, the sun began to rise, casting golden rays upon the land, illuminating the faces of the people. The sweet sound of jubilant worship rose like an offering. "The Lord is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation." Exodus 15 verse 2. They sang a new song, a testament to God's omnipotence and grace. As they stood, awe-stricken, an overwhelming truth dawned within them. The journey thus far was beyond mere escape, it was a forging of identity, a transformation led by the divine. God's sovereign plan was unraveling. They were to become a people marked and molded for his glory. Yet as they celebrated, a question hovered over them like a cloud: what trials would come before reaching the land flowing with milk and honey? And how would they respond to God's leadings in the wilderness? Hence, the echoes of the Exodus reverberated through their hearts, a call to see beyond the immediate, to believe beyond what was visible, for God was orchestrating a magnificent plan that would transcend their understanding. And the people pondered, intrigued by the promise yet to unfold. As the sun ascended higher in the sky, the Israelites stood on the shore, their hearts still echoing with the praise of what had been wrought. The waters of the Red Sea lay calm, a solemn witness to their deliverance, yet a divine tension lingered over them. The promised land was still distant, and with its approach came the weight of their uncertainties. Moses called the people to gather, the joyful celebration giving way to solemnity. "Hear, O children of Israel," he proclaimed, "for the God of your fathers has led us through the waters. We have witnessed his mighty hand, yet there lies before us a wilderness that we must traverse. Prepare yourselves, for in this land shall you learn obedience to the laws of your God." With these powerful words, the people turned their attention to the path ahead, a vast expanse stretching into the unknown. Their feet, still firm upon the dry ground, began to feel the tremors of hunger and thirst looming in their hearts. "Where shall we find water?" one among them cried, his voice tinged with anxiety. "What shall we eat?" echoed another, eyes searching for provisions in an empty landscape. Moses raised his voice above the murmurs of their worry. "Trust in the Lord our God, for he shall provide. As the lilies of the field do not toil nor spin, so shall he care for us." Matthew 6 verse 28, with spirits lifted, they focused once more on his words, recalling the promises that had been spoken unto their forefathers. Yet, the journey ahead was fraught with trials, for even as they marched forth with hope, they encountered the bitter waters of Mara. "What shall we drink?" the people complained. Their voices rose in protest, filled with bitterness like the waters themselves. Moses, struck by their complaints, cried out to the Lord. "O Father, what shall I do with this people?" He lamented, in the depths of his heart. And the Lord spoke to him, saying, "Cut the tree and cast it into the water." Moses obeyed, casting the bitter wood into the waters, and miraculously, they became sweet. "Thus you shall know that I am the Lord your healer," the Lord declared. Exodus 15 verse 26, astonished, the Israelites drank of the waters, the bitterness of their woes transformed into refreshment. They marveled at the miraculous sign and sang praises once more, their faith renewed in the God who provided for every need. As they journeyed further, the sun began to sink below the horizon. A cloud descended, guiding them through the wilderness. "The Lord will fight for us," Moses reminded them, "and you have only to be still." But as the days turned into weeks, and the miles stretched before them, they were tested not only by hunger but by the whispers of doubt. "Would it not have been better for us to remain in Egypt, where we sat by the pots of meat?" they lamented. Yet God had not forsaken them. He spoke to Moses in the night, reaffirming his covenant. "Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you." Exodus 16 verse 4, "In the cool of the morning, manna fell like dew." The Israelites gathered, marveling at the provision. "What is it?" they asked, for they did not know what it was. Manna, they called it, a reminder of God's sustenance even in barren places. With each miraculous provision, they learned to trust, to rely on the unseen hand that guided their steps. They regarded each manifestation of God's care as a sign of the promise that awaited them, a land flowing with milk and honey. And through trials and testimonies, God's sovereign plan was slowly unfolding, teaching them that every obstacle was an opportunity to experience His grace. Thus the stage was set for further revelation. The wilderness would not be an end but a journey to their true identity, a people set apart for His glory. But in the distance, another mystery beckoned. How would they respond when the true test of obedience came, and what greater miracles awaited those who chose to believe even in the desert? For God's unfolding promise held treasures yet unveiled, the echoes of which sang of something beyond their imagination. As the Israelites continued their march, their footsteps beat against the parched earth, echoing with both the joy of deliverance and weighty anxiety for the journey that lay ahead. The wilderness stretched out before them, vast and unyielding, like a canvas upon which they would learn the nature of their faith. In the midst of the throng, murmurs arose once more, ignited by the pangs of hunger in their bellies. "How long shall we wander? What shall we eat?" The questions hovered in the air, heavy with desperation, and Moses prayed earnestly to the Lord. Then the Lord spoke unto Moses again, a voice both gentle and powerful, saying, "I have heard the cries of my people. Speak unto them, that they may know my provision and my faithfulness." The next morning, as the sun crowned the horizon, a miraculous sight greeted the weary travelers. The ground shimmered with a fine, flake-like substance, and the people gathered round, eyes wide with wonder. "What is this?" they asked in astonishment, and Moses declared, "This is the bread which the Lord hath given you to eat." Exodus 16 verse 15. "Gather it each day, enough for your household, for I will provide," Moses instructed, and a spirit of obedience swept over them, drawing them closer as a community. They collected the manna from the ground, learning not only to depend on God but to share in His blessings among one another. Yet, even in the midst of this divine bounty, challenges arose. Some, driven by greed, gathered more than was necessary, only to find it spoiled by morning's light. Others, fearing scarcity, sought to hoard the heavenly bread. So the Lord instructed Moses to place a sample of the manna in a jar, to be preserved before the testimony of generations to come, that they might remember how the Lord sustained them through their trials. Days turned into weeks, and the people journeyed onward, learning the rhythm of provision in their wilderness. But doubt crept into their hearts once more. "Would that we had meat to eat!" they lamented, nostalgia for Egypt consuming them like a flame. "Our souls loathe this light bread," they cried. Moses, troubled and weary, went before the Lord, burdened by the complaints of the people. "Why dost thou treat me thus?" he asked in despair. Yet the Lord replied, "I will provide flesh for the people, and as the morning dew makes the earth soft, so shall I rain down quail upon them in the evening." Exodus 16 verse 13. And it came to pass. In the twilight hours, flocks of quail descended upon the camp, so that the air was thick with birds. The people feasted, yet it was not without consequence. As some indulged gluttonously, their delight turned to mourning, for the Lord's anger was kindled against their discontent. "Surely you shall learn to appreciate my gifts," he warned, and thus, the provision of quail became a lesson in gratitude. As the Israelites continued their journey, now filled with both sustenance and savor of divine lessons, they beheld another sign upon the horizon. A great mountain loomed ahead, shrouded in cloud and smoke, trembling before the voice of God. "Gather the people unto me," commanded Moses, "for the Lord is preparing to speak with you." Thus curiosity and reverence filled their hearts, for they knew they stood at the threshold of something profound. The mountain would not merely be a geographic landmark, but a place of covenant and commandments, shaping their identity as His chosen nation. As they drew nearer, anticipation mingled with trepidation. What would the Almighty reveal? What instructions would echo from that sacred place? For God's sovereign plan was to unfold further, leading them deeper into their calling as a people set apart, and as they readied themselves for the encounters that awaited upon the holy mountain, questions lingered in the air like the scent of incense. Would they find the strength to obey His commands, and would they embrace the greater miracles of faith that lay ahead in their exodus from the wilderness? The pages of history awaited their response. As the Israelites gathered at the base of the mighty mountain, the air crackled with anticipation. The clouds above swirled thick and dark, and the earth trembled beneath them, a living testament to the presence of the Almighty. They looked to Moses, their leader, whose heart swelled with mixed emotions, aware that he stood as the mediator between man and God. "Prepare yourselves," Moses commanded, his voice steady yet laden with the weight of the moment. "Consecrate yourselves today and tomorrow. Let each man and woman wash their garments and be ready for the third day. For on that day, the Lord will come down upon Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people." Exodus 19 verses 10-11. So they did as Moses commanded, cleansing themselves, their hearts full of expectancy. 3 days passed with restless anticipation, and as the dawn of the third day broke upon the horizon, the mountain became a sight of awe. Thunder roared and flashes of lightning lit the sky, and the sound of a trumpet grew louder, piercing through the air. The people trembled, fear seizing their hearts, and they drew back from the mountain's base. "Sinners cannot approach the Holy One," they whispered among themselves, recalling the words of their forefathers, the sacred traditions passed down through generations. Yet Moses reassured them with a calming presence. "Fear not, for God is come to prove you, and that His fear may be before your faces, that you sin not." Exodus 20 verse 20. Then, as if the heavens responded to this plea for assurance, the Lord spoke from the heart of the tempest. His voice resonated like thunder, revealing profound truths and eternal statutes. "I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage," he proclaimed, echoing the very covenant of deliverance that defined their existence. With each command delivered, echoes of divine authority cascaded down the mountain. "Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy." Exodus 20 verses 2-8. The Israelites listened, the weight of the commands settling upon them like a mantle, a reminder of His presence and the holiness expected of them as His chosen people. But with the delivering of each commandment, a tension arose, a battle within the hearts of the people. Who can live up to such standards? They thought. What if we fail? And then, amidst the trembling of their souls, God spoke of His grace, proclaiming His mercy that would endure beyond failures. "For in your obedience, I shall bless you, and you shall be a light unto the nations," He assured them. "I have drawn you to myself, to be my people, a testimony of my love and faithfulness." As the final command echoed from the mountain, the Israelites fell to their knees, overwhelmed, both broken and uplifted, for they realized that while they were called to great heights, it was not merely through their strength, but through God's continual guidance and love. In this holy encounter, God unveiled the depth of his sovereign plan, a commandment not just of law, but of relationship. Will you accept my covenant? His voice reverberated through the land, rising up to their hearts. The people stood, gazing up at the thundering mountain, hearts racing with the realization of what lay before them. We will do all that the Lord has said. The words escaped their lips, sealed with resolve, but uncertainty lingered within them, like a flicker of candlelight despite the encroaching night, and as Moses descended from the heights, carrying the etched stone of divine decree, he beheld their faces filled with both determination and fear. Would they truly uphold their promise? Would they remain faithful to their God amidst the trials that lay ahead? As they took in this solemn moment an intersection of divine grace and human frailty, a whisper of divine mystery filled the air, as God prepared to weave purpose from their wavering hearts. What if the journey was not just to the promised land, but to an understanding of my unfailing love? The question lingered, drawing them closer into the depths of his sovereign plan. As Moses descended from Mount Sinai, the tablets of stone clutched tightly in his hands, a weighty silence enveloped the camp. The air was thick with anticipation, each Israelite holding their breath, feeling the reverberations of the solemn moments that had transpired. The inscribed words of the Almighty shimmered in Moses' heart, his spirit swelling with the sacred truth imparted to them. Behold, Moses declared, his voice strong yet tender, the Lord has spoken. His commands are our guide, a light unto our path. Let us stand firm in this covenant, for we are his treasured people. The longing in his voice resonated deeply within their hearts, igniting a flicker of hope and trepidation. The elders of Israel stepped forward, their faces a mix of resolve and uncertainty. Moses, how shall we live according to these words? For we are but frail and sinful. Their concern reflected the wavering faith that often trembled beneath their firmistic declarations. Fear not, for the Lord is gracious, he responded, his tone assuring. He desires to walk among us, to dwell within our hearts. Our obedience shall open the door to his blessings. As the sun cast rays of splendor across the mountain, a warmth enveloped the people, gently reminding them of the promises that lay ahead. Yet amidst the fervor of the moment, a shadow flitted through the minds of some, whispering doubts and fears that threatened to overpower their spirits. Can we uphold this covenant? They murmured, what if we falter? Such questions stirred trepidation, the kind of internal war that often accompanied the promise of divine purpose. Moses lifted his hands, calling for order. Remember, dear ones, the God who delivered you from Egypt will walk with you still. He knows your frame, that you are dust. In your weaknesses, his strength is made perfect. His words hung in the air like incense, igniting a flicker of faith where fear had threatened to prevail. Then, the Lord spoke again, his voice like the sound of rushing waters. I shall provide a way for you to know me and to seek my face. I will grant you the offerings and the feasts, tokens of our covenant relationship, so that you may remember my love and abide in my presence. As the Lord unfolded the details of sacred days and holy observances, the people listened intently, absorbing the sacred rhythm of divine communion that was to shape their lives. The Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Passover, the Day of Atonement, each command woven into the tapestry of their identity as a holy nation. Then Moses asked, shall we write these words upon our hearts, teaching our children, declaring our trust in him at all times? As if ignited by the Spirit, their voices united in affirmation, we will remember, we will teach, we will obey. However, in the quiet corners of their hearts, the questions remained, lingering like smoke. What will come next? How shall we endure the trials that surely await? In response to their unspoken fears, Moses turned toward the mountain, where the presence of God still lingered, a testament to his unchanging nature. Is it not in the trials that we shall find his promises anew? For the Lord is working all things together for our good, he proclaimed boldly, a shield against doubt. Moses then raised his gaze toward the heavens, sensing the weight of God's unfolding plan. But behold, he cautioned, there shall come a time of testing, of wandering, that will further refine us as gold in the fire. And thus, the people stood, united in purpose but burdened by an unseen tension. They began to understand, their journey was not merely toward a land flowing with milk and honey but a journey toward greater faithfulness, a deeper understanding of the very nature of God. As twilight softened the horizon, a hush fell over the camp. A divine whisper rustled through the air, beckoning them into the mystery of God's sovereign purpose. Could it be that their journey was designed not just to fulfill promises, but to reveal the heart of the promise-keeper? The echo of that question lingered, drawing them deeper into the depths of his love, a hint of the glorious revelations yet to come. And so it was, as darkness draped the landscape of the wilderness, that the people of Israel gathered in the hush of the night, their hearts still swirling with the solemn words of Moses. The moon hung low, casting a silvery glow over the camp, illuminating the faces of the faithful and the doubtful alike. Moses, now standing among them, could feel the weight of their expectations. With every passing moment, the breath of God seemed to stir amidst the tents. "My people," he began, his voice carrying a prophetic urgency, "the Lord is about to reveal himself in ways unprecedented. Behold the signs that shall accompany our journey." The air thickened with anticipation, and the murmurs within the crowd quieted as those who once doubted now hungered for the promises of God. For he is not merely leading us to the promised land, he desires to manifest his glory before our very eyes. Each sign is an invitation into his marvelous presence. With raised hands and a heart ablaze, Moses continued, "The first sign shall be our deliverance from the tyranny of fear. When we cross the wilderness and face the armies that pursue us, the Lord will part the Red Sea, and we shall walk through on dry ground." A gasp rippled through the people, excitement mixed with apprehension as visions of might and marvelous deeds flickered in their minds. And afterward, he proclaimed, "The bitter waters of Marah shall be made sweet. For our God shall provide. When we cry out in our thirst, he will show us a tree, and in that revelation, we shall find healing." A wave of murmurs of faith began to rise, filling the night air with renewed spirit. "Look also to the heavens," Moses declared, his voice cutting through the shadows. "For by dawn, he will bless us with bread from heaven. Manna shall rain upon the earth, and we shall gather sustenance directly from his hand, sustaining us through every need." The people began to stir, hopeful whispers igniting amongst them. Then Moses spoke of a great and magnificent cloud that would guide them, both by day and by night. "The glory of the Lord shall be our comfort and our shield against every adversary. In his cloud, he will dwell with us, and we shall not lose our way." As the night deepened, Moses' revelations grew bolder. "And when we find ourselves hungry once more, behold, he shall bring forth quails in abundance, that we may feast on his provision. His lavishness toward us shall drown out every fear of scarcity." His heart swelled as he felt the very presence of the Almighty enveloping him. But take heed. For the seventh sign shall be a moment of divine revelation. When we stand on the brink of the promised land and face the giants therein, the Lord shall remind us no wall can stand against the strength of our God. He will remind you that the battle is his, and we are victors through him. The camp erupted in cheers, voices lifting to the stars, yet amidst the fervor, a profound stillness settled in, a sacred pause steeped in the awareness of what lay ahead. Yet a question emerged in the depths of their hearts: could our faith withstand the trials yet unseen? And Moses, sensing their inner turmoil, urged, "Dear ones, hold fast. Our journey entails great testing, but such trials reveal the strength of our God and the depths of his promises. They shall refine us, shaping us into a people of faith, a light for the nations." As the night pressed onward, Moses responded to their unvoiced fears with earnestness, "Be assured, even as we tread the path of hardship, our God is perfectly at work. Each sign, a reminder of his steadfast love, is leading us into his sovereign grace." In that moment, the very heavens seemed to sigh, echoing divine mystery. What greater wonders await us? The people did not yet know, but as twilight faded into the depths of night, a lingering sense of anticipation remained waiting to be unveiled in the magnificent tapestry of God's unfolding plan. As dawn broke over the horizon with a symphony of golden light, the Israelites stood, poised at the threshold of a new chapter in their journey. The wilderness lay before them, a vast expanse filled with both promise and uncertainty. Moses, having gathered the people, beheld the radiant sun illuminating the path ahead, as they were reminded that each step taken from Egypt was not merely a flight from bondage but a courageous stride toward a destiny ordained by God. "Fear not," Moses proclaimed, his voice surging with the conviction of the Almighty. "For although we tread upon the unknown, the Lord our God is ever with us, guiding our way. Today, we shall see the fulfillment of his signs, and we will bear witness to his faithfulness." The multitude listened intently, their hearts ignited with renewed hope, trembling with the realization that God's promises were unfurling like the petals of a blossoming flower. The first trial presented itself as they traversed the arid landscape, and their provisions began to dwindle. "What shall we drink?" the people murmured, their hearts twisting in anxiety. But without delay, Moses sought the Lord earnestly. The response came swiftly in the form of an instruction. "Go to the rock at Horeb, and strike it with your staff." Obediently, Moses acted, and water spilled forth fresh and abundant, flowing like a river in the dry desert. The people marveled, for in that moment they understood, their sustenance was not found in the land but in the faithfulness of their God. "Truly, he is our provider," they shouted, voices raised in unison, reflecting the strength of their divulging faith. In this proving ground of the wilderness, the Lord fashioned their hearts, teaching them to trust in his provision, each drop of water becoming a testament to his care. Days turned into weeks, and as they ventured further, they faced the fierce heat of the sun and the biting chill of the night. Each trial brought whispers of doubt that crept into the hearts of the people. Did he truly bring us into this wasteland to perish? Yet even in the moments of despair, Moses stood firm, recounting the mighty deeds of the Lord. Then came the day when they encamped at the foot of Sinai once more. The air hummed with anticipation as the mountain heaved under the weight of God's holiness. "Prepare yourselves, for the Lord is about to reveal his glory," Moses encouraged. Again, they consecrated themselves, hearts racing in longing for his presence. The mountain roared with thunder, and the people stood trembling, yet entranced, at the divine manifestation of his greatness. As God spoke from the heights, his words cascaded down like a refreshing waterfall, turning into laws that were both a covenant and a guide. "These shall be your commands," he declared, as the principles of righteousness and justice rang true. Every word breathed life into their identity as a people consecrated unto him. "Shall we not listen and obey?" they declared, their hearts unified, "for in this covenant, we shall find our purpose." Yet soon, the whispers of temptation beckoned their faith, and as Moses ascended the mountain again to receive further instruction, doubt wove its way into the hearts of some. They crafted for themselves a golden calf, forgetting the God who had wrought wonders in their midst. When Moses descended and saw the rebellion, sorrow filled his soul. He pleaded for mercy, and the Lord, swayed by Moses' heart, granted a way for redemption. "Return to me," the Lord spoke with longing, "for I await your repentance. I will make my covenant anew." And there, before the people, God established a new opportunity for grace, not just for restoration but for transformation. The blood of sacrifices became a foreshadowing of a greater sacrifice yet to come. With this understanding, the hearts of the people were reinvigorated. They would not wander forever in regret, for God offered them hope through his mercy. "We will strive to keep his commands," they affirmed with renewed zeal, their voices lifting like incense before the throne of grace. And so the journey continued, each milestone marked by signs of God's enduring presence. Every day brought an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to witness the unfolding of his promises. "Our God is for us," they proclaimed as they set their sights on the promised land, each trial binding them closer in covenantal love. With hearts now emboldened by faith, they crossed valleys, climbed mountains, and faced giants. Each step, though fraught with uncertainty, became a testament and anthem of trust echoing through the ages. For the battle belongs to the Lord, they rejoiced, proclaiming the truth that flamed brightly in their collective spirit. In the fullness of time, they stood just beyond the threshold of Canaan, a land flowing with milk and honey. Eyeing the horizon where their dreams converged with reality, the Israelites looked to Moses, not with hesitation but with a fervent resolve that affirmed, "We are his people. We shall take hold of our inheritance." As they prepared to step into the promises realized, echoes of the journey the trials endured, the faith groan swirled through their hearts like a living testament to the great faithfulness of God. The sovereignty of his plan had not only delivered them from Egypt but also transformed them into a holy nation, a people chosen for his glory, and thus, the cycle of revelation turned as they surged into their destiny, leaving footprints on the soil of faith, forever marked by the hand of the Almighty who called them his own. Each soul rejoiced in what they had become, a people defined not by their past but by the promises yet to unfurl, the everlasting covenant anchoring them amid an unshakable hope. Dear beloved, as we reflect upon the journey of the Israelites, may we embrace the profound declarations of faith that echoed through their trials. Let this testimony inspire us to pursue our covenant relationship with the Lord, standing firm in the truth that he is the promise keeper, who desires to unveil his glory in our lives. Now is the moment to commit to walking in this divine purpose. If you are touched by this powerful narrative, you need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word and the incredible stories that will guide you on your journey. Please, leave a like now to help spread God's truth through the algorithm, and do not wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need this hope today. The time to spread the light of his promises is now. Comment your reflections and how this story has impacted your faith, for we walk together in unity as the body of Christ, declaring his goodness from generation to generation.